The LA Lakers are a bad basketball team. By any metric, by any calculation, by any unbiased observation, they just aren't good. They're currently a below 500 team that had championship expectations, and anytime that happens, there's plenty of blame to go around. But how much and to who? With rumors going around about Frank Vogel being fired, among other things, it's time to have a real honest conversation about what has ruined this Lakers season. Thanks for clicking on the video, by the way. I promise I won't waste your time. If you enjoy the content, you can subscribe for more of it every single day and leave a like rating on it as well so more people can see it. We're going to begin by talking about LeBron. Why? Because everything's about LeBron. He's at the center of everything, on or off the court. From the moment that he got to LA, everything has been about him. I'm not going to start acting like this is all LeBron's fault. It all comes down on him just because he's the guy. I'm not going to do that. He's actually done an incredible job for most of the season in adapting his game, something some of his other teammates can't say. It's something we've seen him do throughout his career, and he's done it within this one season. He started the year by not being aggressive, getting to the rim, shooting a ton of threes. That continued for most of the year. Once Anthony Davis got hurt, they didn't make an immediate adjustment. Now he's playing a ton of minutes at the 5. He's doing pretty much everything he can on the court. The real issues for him in terms of what percentage of the blame is his comes in a later section. But now I want to talk about Frank Vogel. We're getting rumors day after day where his job status is being evaluated on a day-to-day basis. Coming off of an awful loss the other night, apparently he was almost fired then. And now after a loss to the Pacers last night, he once again is still fighting for his job. I think we can all agree that yes, Vogel has made mistakes as coach. There's no perfect coach in the entire league. In the entirety of sports, there's no perfect coach. Some percentage of the blame falls on him. But here's what I don't understand. If you're the Lakers and you think that Frank Vogel is the problem with your basketball team, why are we so back and forth on this? If you think that you have a coach on your staff that would be better as the head coach than Frank Vogel, what are you waiting for? And the fact that they are waiting around and they haven't made a decision on this, despite clearly them wanting to, tells me one thing, and that is they are trying to do what a lot of, quite frankly, past LeBron teams have done, and that is find a scapegoat, find a guy to place all the blame on, get rid of them, and then move forward from there, hoping that that is like cleanse the team of all the things that has been wrong with it. And they can try and do that with Vogel. Maybe it'll work, but I doubt it. And I'm not surprised at all that Vogel is the first place that the Lakers as an organization or the players go to blame. Because think about the hiring process for him in the first place. They went through multiple candidates before they finally landed on Vogel. They wanted a ton of other coaches before they ultimately got him, and it seemed like it was always going to be kind of a bridge coach situation. But they had the awesome season in 2020 where they go to the bubble, they win the title, and that certainly bought him some time. But an under 500 basketball team for the Lakers, given their payroll, given their talent, is not acceptable at all. But again, I'm not sure how much of that you can really put on him. And now we got to talk about Russ. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with the same points that everybody has made about Russ for the entire year. He's lost some athleticism. He's turning the ball over too much. He's an inefficient shot maker. He doesn't do anything off the ball. He doesn't really help this team win basketball games in any kind of meaningful way. And there's a reason he was taken off the floor at the end of that Indiana game last night. But here's the one point I will make. It seems like there's this narrative going around that Russell Westbrook is playing poorly in LA and the Lakers are playing poorly with him because it's a bad fit. And that's true, but that's not the only reason that Russ isn't playing well or that the Lakers aren't playing well. It is an inability or a refusal to adapt his game on the part of Russell Westbrook that is really the large part of the issue, not only with him, but with the team as a whole as well. We knew when they traded for Russ that he wasn't going to suddenly become a 40% three-point shooter overnight. We knew that he wasn't suddenly going to become a great off-ball spacer or a more efficient on-ball playmaker or shot maker. We knew all of those things, but what we hoped was that the LeBron effect would take over, something we've seen happen with guys like Dwight Howard in the past, where they get in the presence of LeBron, they realize they have a legitimate shot to win a title, and they change and they adapt their game any way they know how. And Russ has refused to do that. He has not become a more efficient cutter off of the ball. He has not put in any kind of effort whatsoever to mitigate the spacing issues that he provides by trying to move in any way or be a factor whatsoever off the ball apart from catching and shooting and most of the time bricking off-ball three-point shots. And then the thing that got him taken out of the game last night against Indiana was his defense, and he is not committed to that end of the floor either. There's a version of Russell Westbrook that exists that would really help this Lakers team. A guy that was active on the offensive glass, cuts off the ball, was able to run the second unit when LeBron comes off the floor, and is really active and engaged defensively. And maybe the Lakers were fools to think that that version of Russell Westbrook would ever appear in a Lakers uniform, but I'm sure at least part of them was hoping that it would, and the fact that it hasn't is a much larger issue than the fit concerns that we all knew were there when they made the move. Which brings me to the front office, because they certainly do deserve a good amount of the blame for how poor this Lakers season has gone. If you really want to break it down to percentages, I'd say Russ is the number one reason, and right underneath that is the job this front office has done. It's not Frank Vogel's fault that they traded a significant part of their depth to get an inefficient superstar that doesn't fit alongside their other two best players in Russell Westbrook. It's not really any of the players' fault that they decided to move on from Caruso and re-sign Talen Horton-Tucker, or that they signed various veterans like Trevor Ariza, trading for DeAndre Jordan, guys that we all kind of know have been done for a while. Now, if you want to put some of that on GM LeBron, I can understand that. That's what I was referencing in the first section, but ultimately, it's the front office's job to make these decisions. And so there is a good amount of the responsibility that is held by this front office that they just did a poor job of putting the team together. Now, granted, after the Anthony Davis trade, there weren't a ton of assets here. There weren't a lot of things that they could have done to try and make this work, but there certainly were better options than what they ended up doing. And to look past the front office and blame everything else, blame the coach, blame the players, blame Russ, blame LeBron, that insinuates that this was a team that was put in a position to succeed in the first place, and that they are a good team on paper in the first place. And that's just not the case. And when that isn't the case, you have to go back to the people that actually build the team in the first place, and that is the front office. Now, at the end of the day, there are plenty of other things you can point out here as outside factors that have really negatively affect the Lakers' performance this season. Injuries, protocol issues, things like that. Anthony Davis getting hurt, certainly a huge blow to their season, and maybe they'll look really good once he does return. But the last point to make here is just Anthony Davis's decline. I mean, before the injury itself, he just wasn't the same player. He wasn't as impactful when it came to winning. He wasn't the same player defensively. Offensively, he just kept settling for jump shots. His build just looks different. He doesn't look like Bubble Anthony Davis. And that's probably the most concerning part of this entire situation moving forward, because you could have foreseen Russ being a poor fit. You could have foreseen at certain points LeBron start to decline a little bit given his age. But the one thing that you as the Lakers, when you traded for him or just moving forward in general, were counting on this year, as well as in all the years that follow, was that Anthony Davis was still going to be one of the top players at his position, that he was going to be the guy that LeBron could pass the torch to ultimately when that came down to it. And that just hasn't been the case. And he's not particularly old. And amongst all these other issues, Vogel, LeBron, Russ, the front office, injuries, Anthony Davis is potentially the biggest issue here. Because in some ways, you could say that this Lakers season is almost over. It's hard to count them out given the talent of the top three guys. It's hard to count them out given the fact that LeBron is on their team and he's still playing incredibly. But really, there are ways in which you can frame this that say that their season is over. And so then if that's the case, you have to start looking towards the future, towards the next couple of seasons of Lakers basketball. And if Anthony Davis is not going to be the guy that's going to be able to prop up that era, that is a hugely significant issue. So now that we blamed everybody, how do they fix it? I'm not sure that there is a fix. I talked about what Russ can do. If he hasn't done it yet, it's incredibly unlikely that he is going to do it moving forward. Maybe a shakeup in the coaching staff will be a real boost for them. If they can shake up the coaching staff, Anthony Davis can come back fully healthy and LeBron can continue to play out of his mind. Maybe there are lineup combinations here. They've found a couple of answers in terms of spacing, guys like Malik Monk, guys like Carmelo that have really helped their spacing, but I'm not sure that there is a fix. Defensively, they're not nearly the same team. The identity that they built with that bubble team around LeBron and AD as the best small ball 4 and 5 in the league is almost completely gone. And they don't have perimeter defenders. Like, they could become an incredible offensive team tomorrow, which is unlikely, but they just can't get stops ever. They are a below average defensive team without significant high upside offensive performances, which just says that they're not a championship contender. Now, if Russ starts to adapt, and if Anthony Davis comes back and is fully healthy, and if LeBron can continue this level of play, and if they have some clarity on the coaching situation, maybe they can start sneaking back into that conversation. But there is no other team in the league that we consider as actual semi-contenders that has as many ifs, that has as many questions, that has as many issues as what the LA Lakers have. And so at this point, I'm not sure there's a fix.